Alrighty, looks like we're live.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron. I'm here with the Azure CLI team, and we're doing a monthly community stand-up. This is our first one. Most of the impetus is for giving the community an opportunity to see where we're going, what we've done, kind of how the community can contribute if they're interested, and then even help collaborate with us on GitHub and things like that to decide where the product goes and where we make improvements. So like I said, I'm Aaron. I'm the PM on the Azure CLI right now. That might change in like 4 days, something like that. And everyone else, you want to go around and introduce yourselves?
Define a round. We're in different rooms.
You can start.
Okay, my name is Troy. I'm a software engineer on the team.
I'm Travis, also software engineer on the team.
So I'm Johan. I'm a developer on the team.
Hey, I'm Derek. I'm also a software engineer on the team.
Hey everyone, I'm Vishnu. I'm also a dev on the team.
Cool. So actually, because we have so many of us and the Azure CLI is fairly new, we GA'd the first components about a month ago and are about to do a second round of GAs. Does everyone want to quickly go around again? We'll do the same order and just talk about which of those services you worked on or which features you're in charge of. Troy?
Okay, so the command module I'm majorly working on is storage. In addition to that, I do a lot of infrastructure work, all the code coverage, automation, CI stuff, and also annoying people from time to time on the pull requests to remind you to leave a space between the sharp and the first character of your command, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm very annoying, yeah.
I primarily work on Key Vault and network, and then also occasionally on VM and VMSS create.
Cool. And yeah, we're missing Yugong right now. He must be at a meeting or something, and he's mostly works on VMs and web apps.
And auth stuff.
And auth, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Johan, I think you're over there.
Oh, so I'm going to have to figure out what I'm working on now.
Yeah.
Primarily infrastructure is what I'm doing, some of the core libraries inside of the CLI, and also working on some of the architectural things inside of the CLI.
Cool.
And also causing trouble.
Yeah, so I mainly work on the install experience, release management, and also a lot of the infrastructure work.
Specifically, I worked on SQL command modules, Azure monitor command modules, and the monitor and the dev test lab teams. They are in the preview. Yeah, handling this guy's pressure.
Yeah.
Contributing.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think that kind of helps to get an idea of what everyone does. Just so that they can put a face to a name whenever they see a comment about storage on GitHub. They know who they're talking to. They know who to yell at later. Okay, cool. So I wanted to start with, and we can just leave it as an open discussion. As I mentioned, we did the first GA of components. We did compute, network, and storage, and a few others in there. Mostly like the core modules, things like that. And that was on February 27th. So who wants to start with just talk about what the strategy was there, why we only GA'd a few of the command modules, and kind of what the design principles were. I'm going to make Johan talk.
I'm looking at Johan's arm, waiting for it to speak.
Yeah.
Well, I would have, but you interrupted me. But well, so the first set of scenarios really that we're targeting were the IaaS, the infrastructure as a service. So that meant spinning up VM, virtual machine scale sets, and these kind of things, and the supporting services around that. So that means obviously you're not going to get very far unless you got networking for your VM, because having a VM running in Azure and no way of talking to it is rarely what you want to accomplish. So, that's kind of where we started, and then we're expanding from there. And our intent is to span the full breadth of Azure services as we go along.
So one question I think we get a lot, both internally and externally, is around the XPlat CLI and the fact that there are some features in the XPlat CLI that aren't currently in the Azure CLI. When do we plan on reaching parity with the XPlat CLI?
So two parts to that question. One is that, as many of you know, there are two different modes you can talk to Azure. You got the Azure Service Management, or Classic, or whatever you want to call that one. And you got Azure Resource Manager, which is the new ARM Resource Manager APIs that you have in there. We do not intend to support the Classic mode in the
the new CLI. The 2.0.
So for that one, in that sense, we will never reach parity for ASM because we will never support that.
Yeah.
For Resource Manager functionality, we're rapidly getting to the point where we have equivalent set of commands or functionality in the new Azure CLI. Last time I looked, I believe that was HD Insights primarily that we did not have support for in the new CLI.
Yeah, okay, cool. I think that's like we're quickly approaching that parity, but for a lot of the modules, currently they may be in preview, but they have almost parity with the XPlat CLI. So they may not be GA, but the parity is close.
And beyond in many cases as well for this modules that we have right now. And hopefully both in functionality as well as, well, in my humble opinion, ease of use.
Yes. My opinion as well. I mean, I think that's all of our opinions. That's kind of the goal of the reboot from the XPlat CLI to Azure CLI 2.0 is to re-envision the command surface and re-envision the way people, especially non-Windows users who are more used to a bash type of experience, moving the CLI into a way that's easier for them to use, right? Does anyone else have any comments on the release last month? Cool, I didn't think so. Like we said, compute, network, storage. Now, how about this month? What has everyone kind of been working on? I know a few of us have been working on bringing individual services up. Others of us have been working on performance, install experience, things like that. So it might be easier if just each one of us goes around and says what we've been working on for this next upcoming release. Did we decide on a date? Monday?
Yep, so we're releasing on Monday. There are a couple of things to add on the previous release. So on the previous release, we had mainly install experiences for like Docker. We had an apt-get install using a Debian package. We had an interactive like curl script that you can just download and it will get you set up pretty easily. And for this release on Monday, we're also going to be having an MSI that you can install on Windows.
Nice. Now, what is the reason for that? Why did we want to ship an MSI?
So the main reason for it is that typically a lot of Windows machines don't have Python installed. So with the MSI, it comes bundled with Python. And also on top of that, it makes it really easy to set up the path. So it sets up the path for you automatically and just kind of hooks all of that together. Yeah,
it kind of gets rid of those. At the very end in Windows, you got to like plug in the last few pieces, and the MSI plugs those in for you.
Yeah.
Cool. So Vishru, what have you been working on over the last month or so?
Last month or so, I worked on the monitor command surface. The idea was like, now we have like a couple of modules of storage, compute, network, and all of those. But how user would be able to get an insights to usage of these resources, and Monitor is our Azure service that integrates those scenarios and help customer envision on the usage of their data or how their resources are performing, maybe compute or non-compute resources. So we are trying to enable those scenarios with the new monitor command module, and it's going in the preview. And a couple of features would be like supporting the auto scale for VMSs and web apps through those scenarios and generic updates. The next one is we are shipping in preview is Azure Dev Test Lab. There are a few scenarios we are trying to enable in this one. Is let's say there is a customer who has a lab and they would like to create a virtual machines inside the lab. They would like to claim those machines. They would like to set up the way different IP configurations, maybe shared or public or private. Those are the few scenarios we are trying to play around and surface with this preview release for Dev Test Lab.
Awesome. Johan, how about you? I'm thinking perf.
Yeah, perf is one thing that I've been looking at. Part of it has been that some of the libraries that we were using were not optimized for short-running processes. So I'm working through with things like the Azure SDK for Python and making sure that that is more performant now with regards to startup performance. These are things to avoid loading too much stuff essentially on startup. Typically doesn't hit a normal application that is not very short running, because at some point chances are that you will do something with Azure if you reference these modules. But for us, yeah, it does impact things like the tab completion and a bunch of other scenarios. That's what I'm working on. Most of that we won't see the fruit in the release on Monday. Hopefully in the release after that one, we will start performance improving.
Cool, awesome. So Derek, did you want to talk about anything else that you've been working on besides the MSI?
So the main thing was the MSI. There are a couple of things that I'm working on for future releases. And in particular, is to do with supporting multiple API versions inside the CLI. To make it just talk to Azure Stack, to some of our other Azure clouds.
Yeah, so for people who may be less familiar with that, we also talked about that in the community stand-up with PowerShell this morning as well. Like there are many different deployments of Azure. Most of us know and love Azure Global Cloud is typically what we call it. But then there's also a German cloud deployment, U.S. government, Azure Stack, which is an on-prem infrastructure that functions like Azure, but just is owned by you and you run the hardware. And so a big portion of the work that we're trying to do for all of these different deployments is allowing users to target those different deployments with the same tools that they know and love. So if they use Azure CLI or if they use Azure PowerShell, then all they have to do is use those tools the same way they already do, and we'll kind of do the work to properly correctly talk to the right cloud. I'm getting a little bit of feedback from you guys, and it's like destroying my ability to talk.
Bouncing back and forth between you and them and you and them.
Yeah, that's what I have control over here. So when I realized that was happening, I clicked on my box so that it would get stuck on me. So let's go to Troy, and then we'll do Travis after that.
Okay, so there are a few upcoming features in the storage, which I'm currently working on. One of them is the large blob, which will enable us to have a blob of a block. Sorry, it's kind of weird word. Blob larger than 100 larger than the current the 4 megabyte to 100 megabytes, which essentially will enable us to upload a very large file. So I'm working on that. But majority of the time, I was spending a lot of time on the engineering system. Like as we know, we are a relatively small team. Like we only have 5 developers here, but the product is growing dramatically. And all the service team were adding new features, onboarding their commands into Azure CLI. So we need to figure out a better engineering system that enable us to, without increasing people resources into that, we still can handle all these product, the code, and ensure the quality. So I spent a lot of time on this one. So I can't like list the features I'm working on. Most of the time we can't see it. But I want to make sure the team can run more smoothly.
Yeah, cool.
Without the new things.
Before we continue, the Vishrut, Derek, Johan room.
Yeah.
Can you guys turn down your volume just a little, maybe?
But then people next door can't hear us.
Should we run into your room now?
I thought we wanted to reach a broad audience with this.
Yeah.
Aaron speaking and then them sitting
So
there.
like, yeah,
speaking.
it's really
It's
looking
great.
at us.
Yeah. I think it's just they're or actually that might not be a bad idea, Derek. If one of you guys can mute yourselves.
Mute yourself.
Yeah, while maybe like if we're gonna stick on me or Troy or Travis for a while, then just mute for a little bit. So we'll let Travis go, and then if one of you has something to say, just unmute and pipe up at that point. All right, Travis, you're up.
So the big service that I worked on that's going GA this release is Key Vault. Another big feature for VMSS or Scale Set Create is the ability to create a scale set with an application gateway at the same time to create a scale set that's greater than 100 VMs. That's a big feature that was added with this release. What's also worth noting is we've got a couple other modules that are going preview with this release that none of us specifically worked on, which is Data Lake Store and Data Lake Analytics. And kind of talking a little bit about those is we've kind of designed the CLI so that it's ideally easy to contribute. So a lot of the service teams are writing their own commands and submitting their own modules into the CLI GitHub repo.
Let's say I was a developer and I wanted to contribute myself. Like maybe I'm very passionate about a service that we haven't onboarded onto Azure CLI yet. Can I contribute or say that there's a feature on Data Lake that isn't available? Can I contribute to those commands?
Yeah, you certainly can. You would be asked to sign essentially like a little agreement saying, I'm going to do good things or whatever it says. I don't know. I haven't personally read it, but otherwise, yes, you can fork the repo. It's a public repo, and we have documentation to help author command modules and author commands, and then we're available for questions and that sort of thing. And we've had many teams, Batch, Data Lake, SQL now manages
their own service.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've had several teams onboard their own command modules and some pretty beefy command modules at that. So.
And we don't want to make it sound like you have to be part of Microsoft in order to contribute here, right? So anybody can contribute here as well. It just so happens that the teams that are responsible for the different services in Azure are very interested in making sure that they have a presence in the command line experience. So
yeah, and we are very willing to hear advices. Like if you want to contribute, what makes the experience much easier for you to contribute? How's the current code layout? How easy to write a test? And like for example, for all the pull requests, we have code coverage hookup. How easy for you to understanding the numbers? How easy it is for you to test your products and to communicate with us. And when you have issues, how easy it's for you to give us feedback. And all these are very good advices we hope to get from the community that will help us getting better.
Yeah, cool. I'm actually gonna segue there for a second and talk about what I've basically been doing besides meetings. I did a lot working with the documentation team to make sure that we were providing the best documentation possible to our end users. And the biggest reason for that is just because more and more users are moving away from just clicking through things on the portal, and they're moving towards either CI tasks or you might be in VS Code and it's just easier to create a web app right inside the integrated terminal in VS Code instead of going to your browser or something like that. So more and more people are switching to command line type experiences, especially now that tools like Git and Docker are primarily command line based and are so popular. So the documentation is near and dear to my heart, and so I'm going to make everyone suffer through a quick presentation, a little bit about where that documentation is and how you can contribute. So I'm gonna try to share my screen. We'll see if it'll work properly here. You guys let me know if you see it. Do you see it?
We see a black box. Oh, we see the brother now. Okay.
Do you see my desktop?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so like I said, the documentation is, in my opinion, very well done. It gives a lot of information about what the design paradigms of Azure CLI are, how to install Azure CLI. So for example, we mentioned the interactive install script, and then this will be updating for the MSI and Windows, and then the script in Linux or Docker, things like that. The get started is all centered around, all of these articles are centered around getting started very quickly. So if you don't know how to log in, we can help you with that. We have some pretty advanced query semantics. So if you really want to drill down into some type of response, so we'll give you the whole response back from Azure, and that's if it's got a bunch of data, then you can use a query format to query for certain data. So I think, for example, here I said, hey, for every item in this array, I want the resource group name and the VM name, and then I'm going to push that out to a table. So we've got lots of good documentation here, but as far as contributing goes, we appreciate both, one, getting comments at the bottom. So if there's something that's confusing or that you don't understand or you think should be fixed, then you can leave us comments and we'll pivot on that feedback. Also, you can edit any of this documentation or propose edits. So when you click edit, it actually brings you to this documentation in Markdown, which is exactly how we serve it to you in the repository that we pull it from. So if you come here, fork this repository, edit this file, and make a pull request, you can actually be a part of this documentation, especially if there's something that's near and dear to your heart and you want to see it fixed or updated. In addition to that, we've got a lot of really good reference documentation. So, and just as an example, I'll go for like, let's do VM list, let's say. So same here. We have, synopsis and some examples, parameter lists, things like that. Oh, that actually needs to be fixed, it looks like. Somebody messed that up. I'll have to leave a comment. But we also have edit on these. So if you click edit here, this documentation is generated out of our repository. So for example, this help.py file has some YAML that is turned into the documentation on the docs.microsoft.com. So if we just look for VM list in here, then here's the help documentation for VM list. And say I want to add some more information, I can add information to the long summary, send a pull request, and we can pull that in. And thank you kindly for your contribution. So I just wanted to take a quick detour while we are on the topic of contributing, especially in Azure PowerShell. We've seen a lot of people contribute code, but we have a lot of people who love to contribute to the documentation. They love PowerShell. They love seeing good PowerShell documentation. And just FYI, this reference documentation goes both into the product and onto docs.microsoft.com. So the entire SDK team has made a pretty big push to having one source of truth. And that's what helps really right here. This is the source of truth for reference, and that's the place you go. So I think I'll switch back to my Hangout here. And that's enough on doc. Oh God, Inception.
Nice.
Cool. So that was my detour there on what I've done over the last month-ish. So let's talk a little bit. I think we've got maybe 5 or 10 more minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about what our plans are. As many people may know, we have Build coming up in early May. and a lot of work at Microsoft, especially in DevDiv, which is where we live, is centered around build and what we want to have complete and functioning by build. So can we talk a little bit about what our plans are for build, what changes might be coming? Are we focusing on performance? Are we focusing on services? Where are we in terms of product vision for build? Anyone can comment.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So what I'll be looking at over the next few weeks and months is, as I mentioned, the API profile support and being able to support a lot more different API versions at the same time. And that's kind of all part of Microsoft or Azure's bigger strategy of having a consistent cloud.
Yeah.
So that's mainly what I'll be focusing on.
So when do we think that we'll have the ability to switch profiles by build, or is that kind of like a post-build type of release?
So
we had to guess. We're not committing to anything.
Yeah, so I mean there are lots of different kind of teams involved. So we'll be working with a lot of all those other, like you have the ARM team in Azure, you have the Azure Stack team. So we're going to be working with all those different teams to work out the scenario and come up with a plan.
Cool. Vishrut or Johan, what do you plan on doing for the next month or so?
Specifically, I will be like trying to simplify the scenarios that we have enabled, trying to find out how we can complete the scenarios from end-to-end features, whether it be a dev test lab or monitor scenarios, and how getting the feedbacks from the preview releases and then surfacing those features into next releases. Those would be like.
So, and that actually brings up a good point about how the vision for CLI 2.0 looks. And for a lot of teams, we're kind of keeping them in preview to get the feedback about, you know, do the customers who use and interact with Monitor or Dev Test Labs every day feel at home using the CLI to manage their Dev Test Lab resources, let's say. And so that's a really good point. We're going to be taking some of that feedback from their preview releases and pivoting what the scenarios are that people care about and how best to present and present those scenarios in Azure CLI 2.0.
Yep,
that's a good point. Johan, you're up, buddy.
Yeah. Hello. Performance is one of my main things that I will be looking at for the next couple of weeks. I also spend a fair amount of time talking to other teams within Microsoft that wanna provide functionality in here. That want to integrate in one way or another. It'd be that with making sure that if you log into the Azure CLI, I'm all logged in other places as well. And how the CLI fits in with what their vision is, be that team like the VS Code team, for example, and should we have a presence there?
Yeah.
As well as other services. So one team that we have worked with is the SQL team, for example, over the last couple of weeks, and I expect that to continue over the next couple of weeks. I tend not to do what I'm going to be doing over the next several weeks or something like that. Yeah. I tend to have to jump in where the fire burns the hottest at that particular moment.
So I have two questions based on what you said. One of them you probably won't know the answer to, and the other one you will to some degree, or at least you can decide who to blame. The first one is the VS Code interests me a lot. Like I feel like it would be really cool if I could, and I don't know if extensions are typically based off of, especially language extensions are based off of like the file name extensions and things like that. But it'd be really cool if there's a VS Code extension where I could be writing Azure CLI scripts, and as I type AZ, I can start to get maybe code complete. That'd be pretty cool. I'm just throwing that out there. Anybody think about that? Has anyone considered that, or should I do that?
You should definitely do that.
I should or we should?
Was that the question I was supposed to know the answer to?
No. It was not. That was the harder one. That was just like, hey, cool idea. Maybe we can look into that. The other question is, why is Azure CLI so slow on Bash for Windows? Is that Bash for Windows' fault?
Well, I think we're still investigating this. That was one of the things on my plate. One of the things the engineering assistant is, I want to get more measurement in terms of performance and the quality overall. That's to make sure Johan is not like fly blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we talk about performance, usually like a lot of work is about measurement to identify the problem first. Like once we identify the problem, finding a solution will be much more straightforward, right? And then we can begin to trade off. How if we want to improve performance, we may sacrifice something else, or we may do some change in additional. Could be more dramatic, but measurement is the first thing. So when you ask why it's slow, I don't think we can answer this question right now. If we can answer that and we decide not to do anything with it, that would be a bigger problem here. So first thing for us is to measure the performance, to identify every different components of different segments in the entire flow, which parts spend how much time and how much memory, what's the footprint, things like that. That's the first step. I think then moving on there, I hope when next time we're sitting here talking about things, we get more data or statistics, so I can pull a chart, say, here we go, that's the evil part.
We'll at least have an idea of what the slowdowns are in the Bash on Windows.
Not really. I won't tell anything like without really concrete thing. So
no, that's what I'm saying. Next time we might have.
Yeah, next time. I saw this question now.
Yeah. Sorry, not.
Yeah, next time we definitely should be able to have something to talk about.
And if not, we just might still be gathering the data. That's fine. We've gotten some questions about that, and I wanted people to know that we're thinking about that and
we definitely
doing the due diligence to research what some of those issues might be.
I expect us to work with the Linux subsystem folks over in Windows as well, because what we have seen in our preliminary investigations is we spend significantly more time in system space when we run it in Bash on Windows than on some other platforms. But this is, given that we run on many different platforms, many different versions of Python and all of that, it's a multi-dimensional problem to look at as well. And we're seeing certain things that are slow on a given platform for a given version of Python that may not reproduce somewhere else. And that goes back to what...
That's the nature of the beast, right? With the cross-platform, like you said, seven-dimensional problem.
Yeah.
So Troy, what will you be looking at over the next month or so?
So their storage team have a list of features they want to add. Honestly, I'm not sure. Some of them are in the preview. I'm not sure if I can disclose them or not, but definitely they are in a feature for me to work on before the build. Cool. But obviously beyond that, my focus was still on the engineering system.
Yeah.
So one thing I just talked about is the performance measurement and another one is improving our quality control. The more and more customer will use it, and we probably more issues will surface. We need to make sure our product do not regress. We capture issue early and solve this issue, and cover these weak points as our code base grows.
Yeah.
There's also another thing on my mind is to improving the experience when you fire an issue. Right? When today, if you're hitting into a problem with Azure CLI, you go to GitHub, you open the issue, right? And a lot of time, the first question we ask, what's the version you are using? What's the system you are using? A lot of obviously details. When you open the issue, we hope make it easier for you to gather in these data to present to us, so that we can solve and we can get back to you as fast as we can.
Yeah.
So there's a few solutions in our mind. For example, we can wire the system with telemetry, because if you agree to sending your the telemetry data, we should be able to correlate your issue with something in our database. And we can look into see how widely this impacted, or it's singular issue, or it's a widely impacted issue. It's help us to tackle the most important problem as early, as fast as possible. So that's something also on our mind.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Travis, what do you plan on working on in the next month?
So for the initial release of the CLI, our focus for network was on achieving parity with XPlat. And so over the next month, I will be closing the gaps between Azure CLI and the PowerShell commandlets. So one of probably the big area that will be added will be the network watcher resource type. And there will be some other commands that are in PowerShell that weren't supported in XPlat that we'll be looking into. Additionally, I'll probably be hoping to expose some convenience commands for VMSS autoscale settings. With Monitor and Preview, you can do all those things using the sort of building blocks for autoscale settings using the Monitor commands. But
we'd like to build that in, make it easier from the get-go.
Right. Make it easier to do something that's tailored to scale sets, and then eventually we'll do something similar for web apps,
yeah.
Right.
Very cool. And that's actually one thing, Yugon's not here, but he's also been working on web apps. And I think that, I'm really excited about that, because we actually extended the amount of time that web apps will be in preview to get more feedback on how easy those commands are used. We've had a lot of feedback on the XPlat CLI, a lot of feedback on the PowerShell space. And, for a lot of first-time users, web apps is one of the first things you do. A lot of users will try to create a VM, and they might try to create a web app. So we really want to make that experience not just easy, but fun. Dang, this is so easy. I can just spin up a website and show it to my friends in 5 minutes. So I'm really excited about a lot of the work that we're doing there. So that's just a plug for some of Yugon's work that hopefully he can talk about next time. Cool. So I think that was basically it. We did a pretty good amount of talking about how to contribute. So I won't go over that again. I'll probably put a little bit of an agenda, like what we talked about in the description. And then if you have any other comments, questions, or concerns, anyone, external, internal, whomever, can go to GitHub and file an issue, or engage with us in GitHub, or engage with us on the documentation site. Do we have any other areas where customers can engage with us?
We have AZ feedback.
AZ feedback.
Yes.
There we go. It wasn't a trick question. It was more of just I wanted to make it sound like I didn't know. Yeah. So if you would if there's something you love, if there's something you hate, those are the two questions we ask. Two of the three questions, I guess. While you're using Azure CLI, just type AZ feedback and send us some feedback. We'd love to hear what you're getting out of the product. And if you're not getting something that you need, or it doesn't make you feel as warm and fuzzy as you want it to, then let us know, and we can make decisions based on that feedback that will hopefully impact your experience positively. Does anybody else want to add anything before we adjourn for the month, day, whatever this is? No? Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. What did Johan say? I bet he said something sarcastic, didn't he?
I said no. I do not have anything.
All right, cool. Thanks a lot, guys, and thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
All right. See you.
See you.
Yeah.